Is it possible to sell your soul for rock and roll? Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the age-old legend and question, can you sell your soul for rock and roll? I know it's kind of a heavy subject, dark subject matter, but you know, it's fun to talk about, and it's to me it's interesting. What made me think about this was about a month or so ago I did a video, a part one of a video about a guy that I met, a homeless man that was in a subway, and an experience I had with that, and really just discussed Nashville and the struggles that some people face moving to Nashville, playing music and devoting their life to doing music, and some of the trials and tribulations and pitfalls you can fall into. And then just 2 days ago, a friend of mine was over at the house, and he'd never seen the movie Crossroads. He was too young when that movie was around. He wasn't even born really. And I had to show him the end scene with Steve Vai and Ralph Macchio, and explain to him about the folklore and the legend about, you know, selling your soul to the devil, and which refers to Robert Johnson. Obviously, as probably all of you know, Robert Johnson was born in 1911. He died in 1938 at the age of 27. You know, probably the first musician to join the 27 Club, along with the likes of Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Kurt Cobain and countless others. I think Buddy Holly was 27. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. If anybody wants to add to the 27 list in the comments, let's get it going. Let's start that comment. So anyway, this is kind of a part two with a twist to the original story that I did a month or so ago. And I say it's with a twist because it has nothing to do with really the story that I told a month or so ago, but it has to do with the topic of music, and it's associated with some of the things I was feeling that day. If you haven't watched the video, I'll link that at the end of this video. Don't worry, you don't have to watch that video to watch this one. This will totally make sense. So, Robert Johnson died of mysterious causes at the age of 27. Some say he was poisoned, and because he was flirting with some man's wife, right? But they also say he sold his soul to the devil because he disappeared for several months, and when he returned, he was a fantastic blues player, and it was just unbelievable to everybody that he could play and perform the way that he could in such a short amount of time. So it had to be something demonic, right? Which, if you think about it, the Crossroads is really just a metaphor, or, a period of his life. He was probably going through some changes, as you do as a young adult, a young man in your 20s, and going through life changes. You're at the crossroads of your life. So, which could seem like, you're battling hell and dealing with the devil. We think we've all felt like that throughout our life at some point, or, daily. So, can you sell your soul for rock and roll? The only way I can really explain my concept around this, or the way that I feel, the way I feel around that question, is to explain or talk about my life and my experiences as a Nashville musician, and being a musician my almost my entire life, right? So I have to set this story up and give you a little bit of background information. I started playing guitar when I was 15 years old, almost 15, and I'm in my 50s now. I'm in my mid 50s. So I'm no spring chicken, but I still got a lot of life left in me, hopefully. But when I started playing guitar, I did it as an outlet because I was lost, and I felt like nothing in life was gonna. I was living in upstate New York, where there was literally nothing to do, and wasn't really popular in school. guitar was an outlet for me, and it was something that I really took to. I really enjoyed it, and it was something I could do. And it gave me some kind of credibility in high school. I played a talent show. My band had a little three-piece band, and we played a talent show at right before Christmas break in ninth grade or 10th grade. I think it was 10th grade, ninth grade. Anyways, we played this talent show. We played 2 original songs, and the school was primed and ready for vacation. This was the last 2-3 periods before the end of the day, before Christmas break. We were going to be out for about 3 weeks. Everyone was in a great mood, and people had heard us playing in high school, after school and during the middle of the day in the auditorium. We practiced all the time, so they knew we were going to play. And our high school was 7th through 12th grade. And when they opened the curtains and we began to play at this talent show, we were the first act in the talent show and the only band. We started ripping into this song, and it was no kidding. It was like the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. The screams from the 7th graders. Our high school was 7th through 12th grade. The screams of the 7th and 8th grade girls were ear-shattering. And we played great. We did 2 songs, and that really solidified to me that, wow, it was like a drug, and I wanted more. It was like it was fed to me, for better or worse. And then within a year, my father got cancer, and I'd been playing guitar, and it was still my outlet. It was kind of my shield. And when my dad passed away, or even through his sickness, it took him a couple of years before he passed away. I was 17 when he passed. During his sickness, I just blocked out everything in life and played guitar and just played guitar. I brought my guitar everywhere. I slept with my guitar in my bed. I brought it every single day to school. Every study hall period, I could go in the auditorium and play guitar. My guitar was never not by my side. And to this day, it is always with me. One of my guitars is always with me, and I'm obsessed with it. I remember in 10th grade, later on that year, I was at a party, and we broke out a Ouija board, and everybody fakes it. You pretend like you're speaking to a spirit, but this got kind of weird. It was kind of strange, and we were supposedly, talking to some spirit, and we were asking it questions in the future. And my question was, will I one day have all the gear of my dreams? I didn't ask it about fame or fortune, and it said yes. I was like, cool, because I had a Hondo Strat at the time, and I wanted gear. All I could think of was, man, it would be great to have a really nice amp and a nice guitar so people wouldn't pick on me because I was playing crappy gear. And, all these years later, nothing could be further from having just a Hondo guitar. I'm very blessed when it comes to the equipment that I have. And I'm not saying that had anything to do with it, but I always think back to that time. It's very strange. So anyway, as Sammy Hagar says in the Van Halen song Pleasure Dome, I was obsessed with this feeling, so I followed it. Lost in a world, can't find my way home. And that's pretty much the story of my life. My dad passed away, and I went to music school, and it's almost like I just had tunnel vision. And I went to music school, and I graduated from music school, and I moved to Nashville. And I'm going to stop this story just for a moment. Fast forward to 2009 or 2010, I was in a class situation with Steve Vai in Fullerton, California, doing this Alien Guitar Secrets thing. And there was only about 30 of us in there, and there was one real young boy. and he asked Steve Vai. Steve would pause during his lecture and performances and things from time to time, and he would ask, does anybody have any questions? And this one little boy said, yeah, Steve, how do you get to be as good as you? How did you get to be so good? And Steve had been really, Steve's really nice. He's really esoteric, but he's very serious and very intelligent. But he's kind of aloof also, but he stopped and he was just standing there and he was looking straight ahead, and he sat down on his stool and he put his guitar down on his knee and he leaned over and he looked the kid straight in the eyes, and we all got quiet. And they looked around the room, and he said, if you want to reach this level of success or technique, you have to sacrifice almost everything in your life. And that may seem a little dramatic, but I'll never forget him saying that. And then he went on and said, you'll sacrifice sleep. You'll sacrifice at times your health. You won't eat. You'll sacrifice relationships and friendships, money. And there's other pitfalls that you can fall into, but it's a huge sacrifice. So be careful what you ask for, and be careful for what you want. And he stopped. And every time he would say something like that in the class, I would try to relate it to my life and calibrate with Steve Vai and see, am I doing that? Am I following that path? You know, whether it was about a technique he was working on, or part of the music business, or recording, whatever he would say something really insightful, I would try to calibrate that with where I was in my life. And just about everything he said, I could relate to, and it made me feel like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. So, and it reminded me of the movie Crossroads, because that movie changed my life, which goes back to the Robert Johnson mythology and the whole thing around signing a contract with the devil, right? And Steve Vai has been such a huge influence in my life. Number one influence would be the Beatles. Second influence would be Edward Van Halen. And the third influence would be Steve Vai. And there's a multitude of others that are up there, but those are probably my three biggest influences. But the movie Crossroads really, that ending, that scene with Steve Vai sticks in my brain, right? And so let's go back. You know, I was talking about being obsessed with guitar, and everything I did was guitar related. I went to music school, and I moved to Nashville, and I moved here with my girlfriend at the time. And we were barely, she wasn't even 21, she was like 19. I had just turned 21. This was early 90s, like 92. And I didn't move with her initially. I moved by myself, and the plan was to get married to her because her mom wouldn't let her move down with me if we weren't married. They were very religious. And I moved to Nashville, and I left my entire family for my dreams. I left all my friends, and I just packed up a truck, a U-Haul, $300, and a Les Paul Studio, right? And a Japanese Fender Strat. So after several months, I returned back up north, and I got married and brought my new wife to Tennessee. And you know, she turned 21 down here, and she really struggled being away from home. They always say you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. And after 7 years of living here, and I literally, you know, putting her through grad school and whatever, she decided she wanted to be with her family. No hard feelings. And we were still kids, we were still babies. And, before she had decided to move back unexpectedly, I had a really good band. I had been trying to write songs with people, and I had several failed projects, and I finally got this band that was really magical. And the band was called Tangent Kings. Okay, Tangent Kings. We had a female singer. Debbie was our singer. Vic was my bass player. Troy was my drummer. What a band! And we had such a synergy about us that I began to pray. I'm not an overly religious person, right? But I was raised Christian, but I'm not. I won't go there. But I wasn't that religious. But I started to pray every single night. Please give me the ability to write great songs, and really launch this band and give us everything. Give us a record deal. I'll never disappoint you. I'll never let you down. I'll do, I will not write songs against you, and I will not go down the wrong paths. Please get us a deal and help us out. And I felt, kind of guilty. I was like, I'm praying for, stuff that I shouldn't be, but I did anyway. And lo and behold, we got this record deal. It was a small independent deal. And there was trouble with my marriage because I knew she was wanting to go back home at some point, but I kept thinking she'll change her mind. She'll grow into this. But I selfishly was in the studio for about a year, and I was working full time. I've always had a full-time job and was a musician. I've always burned the candle at both ends my whole life, and in the middle of the candle. Constantly. I never sleep, it seems. I think I'm a vampire. Anyways, as of recording this, it's like 3 a.m. So during the recording of that album, which took a year of my life, every single night except for weekends, and I was gigging on weekends, not really realizing it, I had sacrificed my relationship with this woman and following my dreams to, being a musician, it's a very selfish career. And you could say this about a lot of different careers, or if you want to be a famous sports player, or a famous whatever artist, carpenter, if you want to be a CEO, anything that you really, really go for, it's almost like you have to be really selfish. And I didn't have kids, so I didn't have anything really, really tie me down other than a really young wife that wasn't happy being in Nashville. But selfishly, I just really looked past that. I was always chasing it, always thinking, I'm going to make a better life for everybody. I'm doing this, I'm doing this for me. But so she left, and I never really thought about it. And I'd moved away from my family. I had family in Florida, I have family in the Carolinas, and I have family in New York. But most of my family is in upstate New York, and I moved away from everybody to do this. And now my only tie to New York had left. And I got remarried within a year of her leaving. I wound up getting a girl pregnant. And this is like really deep story here. And I loved her, but she got pregnant, not planned, and we wound up getting married. And we were married for 16 years. Within 2 years of us getting married, in the year of 2000, we had our first son, and I had my second son in 2002. But within 2 years of us getting married, Tangent Kings broke up. We were a band for about 6.5 years. And that band broke up due to problems with within the band, let's just say that. Music leads you down dark paths, but I had stayed on the straight and narrow, and I joined this project in Atlanta with Stone Cold Fox Entertainment, which eventually became Slippery When Wet, the premier hottest Bon Jovi tribute band in the country, and they're still going strong. Jason is the singer. He's the only original member left, but he's one of my great buddies. I love Jason, and he's still doing it. But anyway, I joined that project with 2 kids now and still chasing it, putting out instrumental records also, spending lots of time. I was away, I was out of town every weekend for almost 6 years. And I missed birthdays. I missed my first son walking for the first time. I missed Valentine's Day. I missed anniversaries. And it was like I was like a moth to a flame. I kept pushing and pushing harder and harder, always thinking, I'm trying to do this for the family. But it was a very selfish thing, because we were playing big places and playing to lots of people, and it was something I'd always wanted to do. It was feeding this desire, this hunger for me to play and be accepted as a grown man in my 30s now. I was 31, 32, still trying to feel like I'm accepted in life, chasing something that I love. Music. I mean, I believe music chose me. I can't not play music. Can't not play. But I was gone forever, man. I was always gone. And I didn't really see it that way, because we still took vacations and I still was around during the week. And mind you, I was still working full time. So I worked and then I toured. And there's a lot of things that happen on the road. I'm not going to get into it, but, I was never a druggie, and I never fell down the drug pattern. I did drink occasionally, but there's things that go on, and it seems like music can be as dark as you want it to be, the music industry, and it can be as glorious as you want it to be. And I found myself getting further and further away from the promise that I made in the 90s, like, I will, please give me a record deal. I'll never, do anything bad. I won't. I'll make you proud, God. I'll make you. Again, I'm not that religious, but I was committing myself, to doing this thing, and not forsaking the Word of God, and doing things, on the up and up. And things got a little debaucherous from time to time during Slippery When Wet. And I'm not going to spill the beans on a lot of stuff, but we'll just leave it there. And as soon as I got out of Slippery, I was in that band for close to, we'll just say 8 years, right, in that whole project. And then when I got out of that project, I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I'm gonna be a house husband, man. I'm gonna just work my job. I'm gonna stay home and whatever. And it took 6 months, maybe less, and I got suckered into a project that became my band, Snow Black Sunday. And we put out, with that project and members of that band, all in all, there's 5 records within about a 6-year period. And if I thought I was busy with Slippery When Wet, it was 10 times busier with Snow Black Sunday, because it was an original project. We went out west at one point and played the Whiskey. We played Chicago. We were San Francisco. We played Alabama, all over Tennessee. We pushed hard, and we were trying to go for a deal. We were pushing hard, and and it's funny, because we weren't a Christian band, but a lot of our stuff our singer was very religious, so a lot of our stuff kind of leaned that direction, but never fully committed. You know, kind of like U2 or some band like that. It was a lot of it was inspirational, uplifting music. So it was cool. We really didn't get into. I won't say that. You know, that band was. We were on the up and up. There was no drugs. It was very professional. There was, you know, no messing around, nothing like that. But the evil side of it was the sacrifice. And I think ultimately, you know, I won't say I was the blame for me getting a second divorce, but I know me playing, you know, I won't get into that. I mean, that's a complicated story. It's not really relevant. But we'll just say that I never planned on, you know, getting a divorce. I thought things were great, and until, you know, I found out they weren't. We'll leave it at that. But I know playing and committing myself to Slippery When Wet, and then, you know, Stone Cold Fox, Slippery When Wet project, and then jumping into this original project, and I pushed so hard, and we were so close to getting a deal. There were a couple labels in Nashville, in this area, that were really dancing with us, man. Things were just really looking good, and that marriage fell apart. But there were times I had traveled out of town, and my wife was working night shift, and I had gigs to go to maybe 3 or 4 hours away. There were times I brought my kids on the road with me. You know, we had a van, and I remember taking my kids on like a Friday night and seeing them sleeping in the green room on the couch. And the waitresses at some of these venues checking on my kids. I mean, I think about some of this stuff. And where I'm going with this is back to what Steve Vai said about sacrifice. And it's unbelievable to me the amount of years I have devoted to doing what I do. And I'm not bragging about myself. I'm hoping some of this, for those of you watching, you can draw your own comparisons to your life. And some of you may be nodding your head. The rest of you may probably have turned this video off 10 minutes ago. But the sacrifices were real and had impact. They impacted people around me, my friends. It impacted my job. It impacted my marriage, my kids, my family. And, you know, when I got divorced, for unrelated reasons to the band, when that happened, I found myself raising, you know, I stayed in my house, and I raised my youngest son by myself. You know, my oldest son was old enough to do what he wanted to do, and he would stay with me and stay with his mom. He'd do different things, but I raised my youngest son alone. And, you know, I thought to myself, what have I done, man, to deserve this? Not really you know, just blaming the world. And there's a positive ending to this, right? So the band, I would say Snow Black Sunday, my original band, we never broke up. We just stopped playing together. We had a lot of stuff happen in the band. You know, my singer had a baby, and my rhythm guitar player had some serious health concerns. My bass player moved away. My drummer had some health concerns, and I went through a divorce and almost went insane for about a year. It really messed me up psychologically. And I started building guitars and making guitars, and I started this YouTube channel. I just started it as a hobby, just to occupy my time. And now I'm obsessed doing this channel, and I'm still playing shows, and I still write and record music. And I think every single day I don't have a guitar in my hand maybe 6 hours of the day, and that's usually when I'm sleeping. which is almost, I don't sleep very much, but constantly playing music. So I retired from my day job. I'd been doing my day job for almost 30 years. And, a couple of years ago, I started working for another company in Nashville. I won't mention it by name, but it's a huge guitar company that's here locally. And they treat me great. I couldn't be happier, right? So to this day, I haven't slowed down, and I, it's my own fault. I don't visit my family nearly enough as I should. I mean, they could come visit me, but I guess it's easier for one person to go visit my family. But I'm going on 35 years of being in this town, and I'm by myself, essentially. I've got my kids, but they're grown men now in their 20s, early 20s. And I didn't envision it this way. But the good side to it is, here's the good, positive side to it. About 10 years ago, I had been attending this church. And this is not a religious conversation. This isn't the twist. I've been attending this church that plays a lot of rock and roll, and it's a very liberal church. We'll just say that. They're great people. I love them. They're my family. They're my community. And I'm a band director out there. I write charts and play music, and they got me through the darkest periods of my life after my divorce. They were the only people really that hung with me and checked on me, other than my mom, who lived 800 miles away. My mom sadly passed away about 6 years ago, which I still haven't recovered from that. I'm hiding from it. The pain for that is so horrible. Maybe I'm running from that now. Maybe that's why I work so much. But I promised years ago. I said I'll give back. I will not forsake you. I'll pay you back some way. Just give me everything I want. Give me what I want. And I feel like I made those promises, and I feel like for about 25 years of my life, I was selling my soul for rock and roll, and I lost parts of my life I'll never get back. And I'm still not with my family, and it's too late to change that now. I've sacrificed so much, and this is not a woe is me story. I'm not trying to get anybody to feel sorry for me. This is an open, honest discussion, but or story, I should say. It's not a discussion. But where I'm going with this is, I learned the value of community and the people that huddled around me, and I still do that to this day. I still play and chart songs and direct this band. And it has taught me the lesson in life that family and relationships are far more important than sacrificing for your own selfish needs or your dreams. Do I regret it? In some respects I do, in some respects I don't. But I think there's a balance to it, and I've got that balance going on right now. For the last several years, I feel like I've really been able to balance that, and it's taken this long in my life to understand the value of community relationships, checking in with your family, talking to people. And yeah, I still burn the candle at both ends, but I multitask, and I'm able to include people around me and give time. Of a lot of the things I do that's music related are for other people, not for my own needs. The only thing I really focus on now that's really for me, and it's more of It's more of it's like therapy for me, is doing this YouTube channel. And I still can't believe, I mean, at the recording of this video, I'm at 72,000 subscribers, which is, it's not that big for YouTube, but for me it's astounding, because I started this channel just to keep from going crazy, to keep my mind busy and to learn something new, learn how to do this. And I still have so much to learn. I still don't know what I'm even trying to do with this channel, but I truly appreciate the community on this channel. You all are my community. So many of you I recognize in the comments, and I read them all. I can't respond to all of them. I wish I could. But hypothetically, no, I won't say it that way. In many ways, I think the term selling your soul to the devil is, or selling your soul for rock and roll, there's truth to it, but that's when you are so overly consumed in what you're doing that the people that surround you and the experiences that are the most important to you are neglected, and neglected for a long time, and that can lead you down dark paths, whether it's, you know, drugs, alcohol, if you know, off yourself, you know, crimes, and mingling with the wrong crowd and people. There's a lot of pitfalls, and somehow I was able to avoid the majority of it. But what I wasn't able to avoid was how it impacted the relationships, you know, the selfishness of doing it all, and how it impacted the relationships I had with my family and my, you know, and my marriages and my kids. You know, things are great now. Things, I feel like today in life, my life has come full circle. And maybe that's just because I'm older and wiser. But you never, every year I think, you know, when I was 20, in my 20s, I thought, man, I know everything. In my 30s, I thought, man, I didn't know anything in my 20s. I now know it all. And then in my 40s, I thought, damn, boy, was I stupid in my 30s. I got it now. And now I'm in my 50s. And I feel like I get it. I don't understand it all, but I got a really good grasp of it. And I really don't care what people think about me. And all through life, I've been trying to, you know, music is my shield. And I think I've been trying to run to something that I wasn't sure what it was. And at the same time, running away from something that I was suppressing. And I should have just been in the now. I should have just been right in the middle, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's my story, and how I wanted to tie that into, can you sell your soul to rock and roll? I would ask you to think about your life, where you're at in your career, or your passion for music, or your musical dreams, if you're young or you're old. I'd love to hear some of your stories, if this relates to you, or if you just think I'm absolutely crazy. Hope this subject matter wasn't too dark or too out there for you. I do appreciate you watching. There's a lot more to come, and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.